In February, we hosted a drag queen story hour and filled this room to capacity and had to turn people away. In July, we hosted a story time at Pride in the Park with over 200 people in attendance. While we have heard from people with questions and concerns about this program, we have had outstanding attendance and requests from the community for additional programming, including more of Drag Queen Story Hour. We welcome these conversations, and tonight we've gathered together a group of panelists who can respond to many of the questions that have been raised.
Tonight we have seven panelists from Vancouver and nearby who represent different parts of our community and different sectors, and who are able to speak to some of the concerns and interests that we've heard for the last 9 months.
Drag to me is wonderful, and anyone can do it. You don't have to be a male, you don't have to be a female, you can be whatever you want. And seeing the love and the joy from people who are performing and those we are performing for, that just makes my day. Drag is art.
I love the freedom of Psalm 139. God is with us when we are created, and we are created as good, and God smiles at us, and God loves us, and there's nowhere we can go, there's nothing we can do where God does not love us.
It seems that some folks are afraid of things being different than what they expected them to be, you know? And I wonder sometimes if that has to do with what's going on every now and again. When people are thinking about a story hour that's going to be led by a drag performer. And I wonder, is it maybe just folk are a little afraid of a thing that they're not used to, a thing that they don't spend a lot of time around?
A lot of times I'm really surprised by the amount of anger that's sparked, honestly. When we first did it, I thought we'd probably get some complaints, but it really shocks me every time I hear stories of like how angry and sometimes violent people can be about reading books to children.
As far as we're concerned, Pride is an event that's open to the entire community, and we serve the entire community. It's a beautiful, wonderful, amazing event. If you've never been in July to Gay Pride over at Esther Shore Park, I recommend it highly, because it is a place where you will find people who don't necessarily agree with you and who do agree with you. We're open to everything.
If you have gone your entire life not being exposed or not seeing yourself represented in literature, it's going to make literature very unappealing to you. And so when you are able to see yourself represented in literature or on television or in any other form, it makes it so that you feel like you're included, you're important, and you're valued.
Someone is in character, reading the book, but we're still talking about books that are for 3 to 8-year-olds and teenagers. And we're still doing songs that are for little kids, and they're still doing dances that are for little kids. So it's still a story hour. It's just being given to us in a format of someone who's doing it in a theatrical way.
I mean, we will create a performance that works for the audience that we're going to be seen by. Now, if I'm doing a show for the 6th graders at a school in Greensboro, then of course it's not going to be the same as a show that I would do at 11 o'clock p.m. at a club someplace in Portland. I mean, as you said, it's just nonsense.
Seeing movies and reading books and seeing people like Robin Williams as Mrs. Doubtfire, seeing Divine. I know, not for everyone, but like my mother said, in a world full of choices, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, honestly. But we're taught to use our imaginations and to embrace our imaginations. And that's what we're doing as drag queens, as performers, as entertainers. And for having the opportunity to read to children, that's amazing. Because to them, we're the fairy princess, we're the fairy princes and the kings and the knights. We're the cowboys, we're everything that we were taught as young. We're the embodiment of.
We were hoping to have 2 panelists added to this. We were told we could submit the names, and it sounded like they would take them if they met their credentials, and their credentials had to be, had work with the LGBTQ community. So, you know, we did find two eventually, and it was over a week before this forum, and I wrote back to them, and they denied them, and they would have been great on here. As you can see, everybody was respectful. There was no outbursts. So they were afraid, the library seems to be afraid of an open exchange of ideas on this forum.
You know, I think we feel that at the board meetings, we've heard quite a bit from the community that's against having Drag Queen Story Hour, but we really weren't hearing from the community that was supportive of it. And a lot of that is because they're afraid to come to those kinds of meetings. They're afraid of being, you know, criticized or victimized. They already live lives that are, you know, somewhat challenged in terms of people's acceptance. And so we felt trying to provide a safe environment that would be respectful was important to have these questions answered, but in a way that we felt made a comfortable opportunity for them.
We know the levy is going to come out next year, so we've got 3,000 people who have pledged to vote no on the next library levy. We're going to get more exposure out there because 3 out of 4 people signed the pledge form to vote no. The average voter is looking for a reason to vote no on any increased taxes. This clearly gives them one. And like I said, 3 out of 4 people, it's not really that's not why they're signing it. They're signing it because they just look at this and say, this is inappropriate for the library to promoting gender fluidity, having a fully dressed drag queen read gender fluidity books to a target audience of 3-year-olds to 8-year-olds. A 3-year-old and an 8-year-old, they shouldn't be questioning their gender. That's not the library's, which they should be promoting. They should be promoting literacy and, you know, right in that vein.
There's never a time when it's in our interest to have opposition in the community for any reason, and it certainly isn't a comfortable position for me as the director to have people booing me when I stand in front of an audience. I've been a public librarian for 25 years, you know. I believe so strongly in our need to be representative of everyone in the community that, you know, I can't go against that basic precept that intellectual freedom matters and that people have a right to have their voice heard in a community, and because one voice is louder than another doesn't make it right. And you know, yes, certainly we're concerned, but you know, we can't turn our backs on any particular group in the community because someone says they don't like them.
You know, we just don't believe as a majority, and we have our levy to prove it. So that's our chance, that's our voice. And if you believe this is the way the library what they should be promoting, vote yes on the next library. If you believe it is library levy, if you believe it is not, please vote no.